Kenneth Manzanares married Christy Manzanares in 1998 after he fell in love with her and decided he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. The couple had 3 beautiful children and were married for almost 18 years. But the reality of this couple was far more sad than anyone could have ever imagined. Just like any other couple, the Manzanares had their conflicts, but their problems grew each passing day. They had more arguments and conflicts, which ultimately created distance between them. To save their relationship, Kenneth thought that it would be nice to throw a big party to celebrate his 18th anniversary with his wife Christy, and booked a vacation on the Emerald Princess cruise ship in Alaska so that they could work things out. Kenneth also invited his in-laws and his own parents and brothers to celebrate. All of them assumed that they would have the best time of their lives, but no one could imagine the trauma they were about to experience and how the vacation they thought to be one of the greatest turned out to be a tragedy. On July 2017, the couple and the family went on board on the cruise ship to celebrate the big event Kenneth had planned. The family was having dinner together when things started to go bad. Kenneth started drinking heavily, and after that, he started acting rude. He began to kiss Christy without her consent, which made her feel so out of place and uncomfortable. Christy's brothers started to confront Kenneth on his misbehavior with his wife, which led them to have a full-on argument, and soon the dinner that was supposed to be a fun time for the family became the reason for a heated argument that got so bad that everyone decided to go back to their cabins. So how can a lovey-dovey couple end up like that? Before we get into the heartbreaking story of the homicide of Christy Manzanares, be sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss any videos from our channel. Let's dive in. The party turned into a tragedy. Kenneth had booked a lavish cabin for himself and Christy, where no one thought such a tragedy would take place. The couple had another heated argument in their cabin, and things got bad so quickly that Christy finally made up her mind as she told Kenneth that she is done with him and no longer desires to be a part of this mess anymore. Christy was ready to step out of this relationship and had been suppressing her feelings for a long time. She wanted Kenneth to get off the ship at Juneau and told him that things are over between him and her. These words messed Kenneth up so badly that he lost control over himself. The raised voices of the argument had turned into horrific screams that were heard by the passengers of the cruise ship, as well as the entire family. What was about to happen shocked the whole family. The brutal abuse. Kenneth demanded his 3 kids to leave the cabin and locked the door so no one would come in. Soon the atmosphere turned into a living hell as Kenneth started to hit Christy right in the face. Christy began to scream for her life, and her 2 daughters could hear their mother in intense pain. The daughters tried to barge into the room via the escape slide, but failed. They yelled at their father to stop abusing their mom, but Kenneth didn't listen and continued to beat his wife violently. Kenneth saw his daughters yelling and pleaded him to stop, but he locked them in the eyes while he kept on punching Christy's skull until she lost consciousness. Even the cruise ship passengers were able to assess that something was wrong because the screams made it clear to them that some kind of violent act is being done. His daughters had informed the family and the brothers of Christy, and they jumped on the balcony where Kenneth's cabin was, but the damage had already been done. Kenneth came out of the cabin full of blood, and when he was asked what happened, he responded, "She wouldn't stop laughing at me." Kenneth, covered in blood, was a horrific scene that was traumatizing even for the passengers. One of Christy's brothers, named Hun, had jumped off the balcony where her cabin was and saw the horrific scene, seeing his brother-in-law covered in the blood of his sister. He was so stunned that he didn't know how to react. After that, the brothers saw Kenneth dragging the lifeless body of their sister away so that he could get rid of the evidence, and demonstrated his monstrosity. But unfortunately for him, he was intervened as the brothers stopped him from doing so. The painful death of Christy. Christy was found in a pool of blood where her face was almost unrecognizable by her family. They were heartbroken to see their loved one in such a painful condition. The cruise ship's medical staff did all they could to save her, but soon realized that the powerful punches and severe injuries on Christy's skull and body had done irreversible damage, and she was later on pronounced dead. No one had imagined that an anniversary party planned by a family would soon turn into a traumatic homicide. The abuser and murderer, Kenneth Manzanares, was held under captivation as he was prevented from escaping, and the case was soon handed over to the Alaskan police for further investigation. Christie's death raised a lot of questions regarding her marriage and the mental health of her husband, Kenneth. What makes this case even more bizarre is that the murder happened when the couple was supposed to celebrate their 18th wedding anniversary. For many, this cruise ship celebration would have been a fun memory, but for Christie and her family, it became a nightmare. What happened to Kenneth? In July 2021, Kenneth Manzanares was found unresponsive at about 7 a.m. by the local police in his jail cell at Lemon Creek Correctional Center. According to police, no foul play was involved in the death of Kenneth, as the case was thoroughly investigated by Alaska's state troopers, along with medical examiners who later concluded the death to have no suspicious circumstances. The death of this 43-year-old abuser did manage to make headlines in the newspaper because of the heinous crime he had committed back in 2017 on an Alaskan cruise ship that even shocked the passengers on board. Was Kenneth mentally ill? The prosecutors of Kenneth Manzanares tried to save him from a life sentence by trying to imply that Kenneth was mentally sick due to an undiagnosed mental illness and didn't remember the heinous act that he had committed. They blamed the injury and mood disorder to be the reason why Kenneth brutally murdered his wife. But this soon turned out to be false, as the act was super calculated and intentional because of how Kenneth ordered everyone to leave his cabin before the homicide. Kenneth was charged with second-degree murder and was sentenced to 30 years in prison for the horrible crime he had committed. Was the marriage full of abuse? This also made people question the marriage Kenneth and Christie had. Many speculate that abuse was going on for a long time and Christie wasn't able to tell anyone else. If Christie would have told about the abuse to anyone, then such tragedy could have been prevented. According to some, the marriage was full of abuse and trauma from the beginning, and when Christie finally got the guts to leave the toxic marriage she was in, Kenneth lost control and began to use his power over her, just like any abuser would do. The case got a lot of media attention as it was something so bizarre and sad at the same time. People were unable to understand how a man can brutally murder the mother of his 3 children in front of his daughters mercilessly. Apart from that, Kenneth had no remorse for the crime he had committed and backed his act up by saying, "She wouldn't stop laughing at me," as if it justifies the horror of his actions. Needless to say, this was quite a shocking case of homicide that turned the enlivening cruise ship's experience into a living hell for Christie's family and children. What are your opinions about this story? Do you find this story to be heartbreaking as well? Let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That is it for today. Like if you found this video interesting, and we will see you soon, guys, with more strange and unusual cruise ship stories. Till then, take care. Bye.